So I have a few thoughts to share about the power of invention. We as humans only see ourselves as the creators, so to speak, as we have created languages, we have created concepts like democracy, like fashion, like crazy frog. Ultimately, we believe we have the power and the ownership of the outside world and where we sit within it, but not every one of us fully understands the introspective view. We all have to act at certain times in our lives as intronauts, those exploring internal landscapes to define kind of what we are. So before we even reinvent ourselves, often we reinvent ourselves because there's a need to. It's something that isn't working internally. We have to reinvent ourselves to fit into a certain group or a certain role. Either way, it's an adjustment, often for a reason. So before we adjust, I tend to think about the Freudian example of id, ego, and superego. So for anyone that doesn't know, the id ultimately is the unhinged, unrestricted output of true and pure emotion. So it could be anger, rage, pure elated joy, fear, everything at the extremes. So often we tend to think of animal life being kind of, a good representative of the id, being driven by certain needs and certain desires without a societal filter to dampen and pull back those particular feelings. And the superego side of things being the extreme opposite of that, ultra restrictive, ultra controlled emotion and interpretation. So you think about somebody who is in a very high pressure job, maybe in a certain interview, for example, wanted to say certain things, maybe certain awful things, but being so restricted that they don't even let their most truest thoughts escape. And the ego itself sits in between the id and the superego. So the ego itself is often what most of society will strive for, being like a managed id response. So often saying what you truly think and expressing what you feel, but in small quantities, reserved and restricted as and where needed according to whichever societal expectation is kind of applied to whichever situation. So that kind of thought makes me think, okay, well, is the id itself your most truest expression? Is the id the real you? So we could all live id, and yeah, probably would irritate each other a lot. A lot of awful things may be said, but then again, the truth isn't the most beautiful thing. The truth sometimes just needs to be said. Simply giving people a truer platform to work with allows them a way to move forward rather than being, the yes men, the example, so to speak, of just saying whichever will be sort of the less conflictive and easier to go. Often in the end kind of causes more damage. So thinking about the id as being the true you, well, I spent much of my life being kind of, I suppose, super ego, where I lived through certain traumas in my childhood, dealt with bullies like many other people have done, dealt with kind of certain conflicts in the workplace, different things where I had to pull myself back so much that I could never even dare to say what I truly thought or truly felt, for fear that I may lose my job, for example, or at college and university, that I won't be accepted into a certain group. Or, when I was younger, being so restricted in my emotions that I was trying to not let out this trauma that I had, unfortunately, been a part of. It's quite a human experience. It's quite a normal thing. We try to change ourselves to fit into a certain perspective, feeling like that is the best thing. Or often than not, that can come out in bad ways, such as, for example, certain kinds of depression, just certain low moods. Also, people interpret masks is the best way I can describe it. People can tell when you're not being fully honest, as I discovered at college, where I tried to be different things, different people. I tried to be a goth. I tried to be a punk. I tried to be what we called a townie back in the day. And townie, for anyone that doesn't know, is just a term given to anyone that wears popular clothing. So you go to like top man or top shop, whatever it might be, and just wear whatever's considered fashionable, regardless of whether it suits you or not. As long as you're wearing those things and those brands, you're immediately allowed into this particular space. So I tried being that person back then, and I was just miserable. I tried kind of going to clubs where everybody loved clubbing, and I was bored. I know it sounds really sad though, but I was just bored. I just did not connect to this world. And it was only until I kind of reached my early 20s where I started to go, I suppose, encounter the it, is to start to really look, okay, what is the true Kieran? What is me at my core, basically? Where do I feel the most comfortable? That's where I started to switch clubs for pubs, for example. I like pubs and going to kind of gigs, at least I like back then anyway. I never had tried that before, but the groups that I was part of wouldn't even consider doing that. So I went to my first gig many years ago and I had so much fun. Everybody was positive, everybody was happy. Yeah, I kind of encountered my first wall of death, which is pretty much running at each other at two sides when they're playing really aggressive, loud music though. But that was the first time, as I exited my childhood, that I actually felt like, I think this might be me. And ever since then, I've just been trying to kind of let out a bit more it as time goes by, as I have since kind of I've been speaking more openly and more honestly about certain things. And yeah, honesty itself, it isn't pretty, it isn't great, but it helps people, it gives people a platform to work with, know where you're really at, and, you know, not hide your cards, so to speak. And that's helped me through my career, just being that more of a it kind of character. So linking back to the start of this video when I spoke about reinvention, so to me, my reinvention was discovering the it, but the it in the right quantity. So if I could discover an it in the right quantity, my particular application now is essentially 80% it and 20% superego. So not going fully all the way, because I don't want to say things that would hurt anyone's feelings, because being aware of your limitations is a good thing, because, well, your particular interpretation can't be applied to everything everywhere. It's just your view. Other people have other views. So say enough to say and be yourself, but allow just enough back to receive and understand and grow and establish. And that transformed my way of working, and that transformed my way within my personal life of understanding who and I suppose what I am, and of course was back then. So yeah, I just hope those interesting thoughts might help somebody out there. Do you want to be fully super ego? Do you want to be fully id? Or do you want to be a good measure of ego in itself? Very different ways of getting to know the real you, and getting to know yourself allows you an opportunity to move forward, to reinvent yourself. But when I say reinvent, most inventions in life are essentially discoveries. You know, Isaac Newton didn't invent gravity. He came upon it. His invention was the understanding and the process behind that. As did, Stephen Hawking, for example, about his insanely amazing mathematics that led him to the prediction of black holes, for example, which we inevitably found were real and witnessed. I think Socrates said, most learning is discovery. So your invention is ultimately a discovery of your true self and how to apply that best in the world. So yeah, maybe I'm speaking nonsense, who knows? But again, these are just true, unfiltered thoughts. Yeah, have a great day.